Okay, continue. Okay, guys. Obviously, surviving lockdowns, the neuroscience version. So I want to actually talk a little bit about some really evidence-based strategies that will actually help people get through the lockdown from a mental health perspective. We know it sucks.
Charles, feel free to introduce yourself first because we're
Okay,
going to record this and share it with everyone. So
okay,
give us a quick intro. That'd be fantastic.
okay. So my name is Charles Barnard, and I'm a business coach. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey, so you will actually find out a little bit more about me than just general. But I am a business coach that had an enormous amount of practice over about 40 years in the industry, equal amounts of time in corporate, owning my own business, and being a coach of some form or other. And I got into this and got into coaching when I chose the wrong business partner and had a whole range of issues that caused me to really go downhill. And in many ways, it actually forms the basis of where I'm taking you today, because there was a little bit of a recovery journey and it does feature in my story. So, yeah, I want to talk about, we know that lockdown sucks. I'm currently in a one of those local government areas where I'm no longer allowed to move beyond the suburb of 10 Ks, can't do anything, definitely can't leave it. So, yeah, in lockdown. And it is, we understand it's a challenge. COVID itself is a problem and it drives our mental health. Certainly I heard somebody not being able to go to a funeral. We've counted, my wife and I, in this last 6 months, we've lost 7 friends in South Africa to COVID, or at least 6 of them to COVID, and 1 just from a natural stroke. So it's been tough, and it affects a lot of people in different ways. And now when we get into the lockdown itself, there's isolation, there are money worries. Lots of people have insecurity, and the relationship challenges. If you've got a good relationship, it's great. But a lockdown actually reveals all the warts and problems that are inside there when you're actually forced up against one another. And it does lead to a lot of additional challenges. Homeschooling for those who have to do it. Thank heavens for myself, I'm past it. But we know it is a challenge. And so with that, I just want to actually talk a little bit about my story. So back in 2010, as I suggested, I had the wrong business partner. Took me to the cleaners. I took him to court, won every battle over a period of about 8 years. But he always had some way of delaying, changing, delaying. Eventually, when he ran out of options and was being forced to pay me, he declared bankruptcy the next day. It sucks. And together with a number of bad investment decisions, we lost a massive amount of money. And I realized that I was effectively back down to myself at the age of 25 from a financial perspective. With that, I was also diagnosed with Barrett syndrome, which is often a precursor to throat cancer. We had brothers with prostate cancer and all sorts of things happening in our family. It was a really bad time. And with all of this, I was really down and I almost committed suicide. The only thing that saved me was my wife. The one day she was going to work and I was at home and she asked me to take her to work. That meant I had to go pick her up. And that was what stopped me, because I'd actually planned to commit suicide that day. And it was a wake-up call. My wife needed me. I couldn't do it. I actually reached out for help. And I started applying some strategies that were there. And I also realized that it was circumstantial. That was advice from a doctor, that really what I was experiencing was a set of circumstances, and they would pass. But it actually made me go back to my degree, my master's in business coaching, where one of the subjects in our first year was all around relationship, the psychology of coaching. And we actually had to look at a process which was called the how of happiness. And we had to create a picture, a poster, which we put in. This was my poster, the GOM Chronicles, Grumpy Old Man Chronicles. And that's what I used it. But we had to give evidence about what we were doing. Our textbook was a book called The How of Happiness by Sonia Lyubomirsky. And it gives 12 psychologically proven strategies to actually drive happiness. There's checklists and set points, and you can actually understand your baseline and move forward from that. So in 2018, I reverted back to this project that I'd done for a couple of weeks back in 2016. And the project took us through having to put a couple of strategies in place, measure a variety of things. And if we take a look at some of the stuff, you can use apps to actually get a baseline of where you are, and doing things like measuring your resting heart rate and your blood pressure and all those sorts of things. So this is what was coming through for me, and how I was managing it in the short period of a 3-month assignment. Now, I then started using that for my situation back in 2018. And one of the things that I've found is that when you go through it, you really need to set yourself up for what you're doing. So you need to do a check-in. And this is a very, very useful self-check. Look at where you are on this side. Are you actually have the standard self-confidence, normal mood fluctuations, you're active and physically social? Now, obviously, we're having challenges with that at the moment. But if you're in the green side, you're okay. If you're in the yellow side, you're starting to slide. And obviously, the further go to the right of the screen, the worse it is. And if you're anywhere in the orange or red, go get help. That's the most important thing that you can do. But these are things to actually check. So I thought I was doing all right. I'd gone out on my own. I was doing okay from the last 6 months or so, and been busy building my business. When that announcement was made about the construction, most of my clients have something to do with construction, and I knew it was going to hit them heavily. And I suddenly found myself really definitely sliding, going from the yellow to the orange side. And I could see that that was where I was going. I know that I was getting nervous, I was getting irritable, and I was starting to feel anxious about it. Not wanting to speak to people, a whole range of things around that. So I think that was a challenge for me, and had to do something to drive that. So these are the things that are there. Recognizing that I did that, I went back to my processes and realized that we need to take a look at the 4 brain chemicals and what are they. So dopamine is a reward chemical. You get through a to-do list, you actually set up a to-do list. But now in this particular process of where we are in the lockdown, highly essential to focus on stuff that will actually help you get through that lockdown, help build a business. It's a great time to set goals, create small milestones and achieve them. Endorphin, really looking at doing things, the exercising. Everybody's been talking about exercising. It's a way of killing pain. But have that coffee, watch a comedy, do the exercise, make sure you're laughing, and have that virtual coffee, set it up. I've got a chili tasting session with one of my sons a little bit later on today. Oxytocin, the trust chemical or the love chemical. We're playing, listening to music, doing something nice for someone. In fact, in 2016, when we did that assignment, I wrote a letter to one of my old bosses that I hadn't seen for about 12 years. He got it just after having a gut operation. And it was something that he really felt helped him dramatically, but it helped me when I found it. So these are some of the things you can do. And then, of course, we've spoken about cooking, Justin. It is one of those things, gardening, swimming, walking in nature, all of this releases these chemicals. So the idea that we need to do is actually set up habits that will deliberately release these chemicals into our brains as often as we can. And here's are some of the things that you can do. So we heard about learning about meditation. Buddhify is an app that helps you do guided meditation. And it also allows you to connect with other people to learn more about it. There's a whole range of things inside there. Buddhify, I used it. I don't like it as much because I find that meditation in the form of writing down my stuff in morning pages, three pages of longhand a day, really, really works better for me. But you choose what you can do. Snap Habit. I love this app as a habit tracker because you can actually see what you're doing. You put the thing in, and most importantly, you can actually share and have an accountability buddy. And that's what I do with my clients. I actually make them do this when we're actually using accountability sessions, that they're doing things that actually drive the habit. And then setting a baseline, mood meter. It's absolutely a fantastic app to actually recognize where you are and what you need to do to move from one area to another. And Mood Meter is just a superb app for tracking yourself, identifying things that where you are, and it gives you that baseline. It really helps to identify, are you sliding? So these are the things that I use, and I hope that you can use them. So for me, the next steps for people would be get something, whether it's meditation, Mood Meter, Buddhify, Headspace, a habit tracker of some sort that connects to other people, so you can have some accountability and some availability, community and socializing on that app. And then set 4 daily habits that actually trigger each one of those chemicals. And then not least is track them. You get a real benefit for that because you're actually doing something and you are tracking it. And that tracking it is one of those things that actually gives you dopamine because you're actually being able to do a to-do list and you can check it off through that process. So that's a double whammy. So in a nutshell, that's the neuroscience version of getting through lockdown. Thank you.
Excellent, Charles. Excellent. And thanks so much for sharing your story. Yeah, I learned a lot there. It's fantastic. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of questions and discussion around that.
Okay.
Feel free to unmute yourself, everyone, and just and ask away.
Yeah, thank you, Charles. Well, firstly, I just want to thank you for being, well, number one, sharing your story and being so open and honest about what you went through. Obviously, it's such a difficult time for you, and sometimes difficult to talk about as well. Yeah, I'd actually really like a copy of that that sliding change sheet. If you could send that, I think that's a really great way to monitor or recognise how you're feeling. Yeah. And there was a lot of practical things there, and I quite like the science behind all the 4 different chemicals that react to the brain. Yeah, thank you. And I'm a big, obviously I'm a big, well, I'm learning meditation. I'm not a master of meditation at the moment, but I actually find that really, really helpful in my life.
Yeah, meditation is absolutely incredible for helping you focus. It's proven that there's research that shows that a roughly 60 minutes spread of meditation spread over about 4 weeks actually increases your frontal cortex, your neocortex in size in the areas that help you focus. So meditation is fantastic. It really is.
Well, great, because I need to focus a lot.
Can I ask everyone what their number 1 or 2 takeouts were from Charles's prez? That you found really hit home for you.
I think using that kind of sliding checklist to actually monitor where you are, and I guess not many people will, and I personally don't actively kind of check where am I at the moment. So I think that was a really helpful point.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I thought I was coping pretty well with lockdown. I enjoy it. And then as I'm looking at it, I was like, oh, wait, no, I'm getting further down to the red. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
So I think that was really helpful. So yeah, if I could get a copy of that as well, I think that would be really great as well. And also that habit tracker, I've downloaded it already. As soon as I saw the Snap habit, I was like, yep, I want to get on that. So that was really helpful.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a fantastic tool. Thanks for sharing that, Charles.
Yeah.
Charles, you mentioned that book, I think last time, the last meeting I attended, that book, The How of Happiness. I've actually bought it. I'm only up to chapter 1, but I'm reading it. It's good.
Yeah,
Very good.
No, that How of Happiness, you know, the science that she goes into, that Sonia Lyubomirsky, it underpins all of this. So it's a fantastic place to start. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Charles.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Charles,
quite a
what we
personal
might do
story.
is if you're okay, I've recorded this. We'll share it with our wider Penrith Chamber family, and I think it's a great example of what we do at the Chamber Collective, the discussions we have, how we educate each other and uplift each other and support each other. So thanks for sharing that, Charles, and maybe a copy of the pres as well in PDF form, if that's okay.
Easily done.
All right.
So we can print off I like pieces of paper, as we know. We can print off those checklists, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
Well, I mean, I could, for practicality wise, I'm happy to share, you know, especially that sliding chart with my team. I know for me, our stress levels do go up in lockdown because we're not only responsible for ourselves, but we feel like, oh gosh, we've got to help all of our clients. How are they feeling? Some people we pick up off the floor, others they give us the energy and the positivity that we need. But we do have, there are days where some staff members are more affected than others. So for me, I think that would be a really great thing to have on our wall, and just say, well, if you're feeling in these areas, just let someone know, and you know, back off. We'll take action to back off a bit of pressure for that particular period of time.
The check-in side, you know, something like Mood Meter is actually really good at this stage, because you actually setting that baseline. It gives you strategies. Very often we don't have the words to describe our feeling, but an app like that has effectively 100 words for every for whether you're feeling in an area where you're happy and focused, or another 100 words to describe whether you are angry and energetic, or you're depressed, or you're just feeling chilled. And having those extra dimensions really does help people pin their moods and gets you, do you want to stay there or move? So that would be another app that I would highly recommend to people.
Yeah, there's actually, in speaking about an app, I did hear on the radio station, I can't remember who the team was, but they're two comedian guys, and one of them suffers depression quite badly, and he was saying that the advice is to talk to somebody, but he said when he was in his lowest point, he physically could not speak. So he's actually designed an app, and I'll find out what it is for you, and I'll just send out an email. But he has designed an app exactly for the mood tracker. But what it does is it sends the update to your key person, so that key person then can reach out to you. Because he's saying, you know, all the advice is talk, or reach out, but that's the point where you cannot do it.
Absolutely. You know? And that app that Mood Meter also does that type of thing as well, where you actually set up a social, you set up a social, and you can track other people's moods too.
Yeah,
I'll find out what the recording there is. Okay.